Fantastic.
Oh my God, I just need to go look.
Where are you going?
Clearly, not everyone thinks Tracy looks fantastic, and this woman wastes no time cutting in.
I think she's under a lot of pressure, so not to stress her out, maybe just a quick fix for right now. I don't think you should be insulted. There's just maybe a miscommunication.
She's pretty reasonable.
So could you tell her something?
What do you want me to tell
Make
her?
her feel good, maybe? Like it's the best thing you've ever seen. I don't know, something.
I will try to make her feel better.
Oh my God, thank you. Por favor.
Okay. Well, I'll work together with you on this.
Sounds like a plan, but Yuval walks away as Tracy returns.
Are you okay?
No, I don't have the confidence anymore.
But you can totally get it back. We can totally get it back for you.
Yeah, but I'm gonna lose this job.
No, you're not. Not over a hairstyle. We're gonna make the best of this.
Now she's right in the middle of things.
I mean, if he comes back, will you just help me tell him it's horrible?
Well, I'll help you out.
You promise?
Yeah, no, I will help you out. I will tell him that you're unhappy.
We'll see about that.
Okay, Tracy, you look gorgeous. I think it's like the best thing ever.
Even the woman has to laugh.
I don't...
Look, I'm an artist. This is what I do. This is my art.
The woman told Yuval she'd support him, but Tracy's also asked for help. So what's she going to do now?
No, it just doesn't look right.
I spoke to her before, and you said to me that
Hold on, all right, hold on a second. Nothing against you and what you've done, but maybe we can just do a quick fix. We gotta move past this. We're gonna put her hair up for right now.
Here we go.
Do you know what? I'm just gonna have to bring out the master stylist.
Here I am. I am here. I am the master stylist. I like that hairdo.
Oh my God! I watch your show all the time.
You were so diplomatic. They both asked you to take their side, right?
I think a lot of women have been in that position where you go to get your hair done and you don't like it. You leave, you pay for it, but I feel like the older I'm getting, just speak up.
Turns out Jessica Marcel is a fourth-grade teacher who says there's a lesson she can highlight from this hair disaster.
The importance of communication, planning ahead. I probably wouldn't have gotten my hair done a half an hour before a job interview. Problem solving, moving forward.
If you don't like what you're seeing.
Say something.
Next, meet the maxed-out mommy, maxed out of patience.
Mommy needs a break. I can't take it anymore. You're gonna go outside until I tell you to come back in.
But before you say, been there, done that, there's a twist nobody saw coming. Up next. What Would You Do on ABC News Live? We'll be right back.
More Americans choose ABC News, America's #1 news source. This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run with...
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
Seems to change just about every day.
what is it that you really want to know, need to know,
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
The ladies you love, the hottest topics happening now. There's only one place to find it all.
You guys are having the hard conversations. I love The View.
The most watched #1 daytime talk show is The View. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It was a scary time.
In the 70s, you had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. Had to have a name for it, serial killer.
There was a human head in there. This was premeditated evil.
We have this clock. This person is going to do this again.
It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
Let's do this.
When you wake up in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, darling, I'll be by your side. I'll be there by your side. I'll be everything you wanted. I'll be there by your side. If you need a light to shine it, hold out your hand, let the stars shoot again, let the light shine in through the dark.
Good morning, America.
ABC News honored winner of 9 Edward R. Murrow Awards, more than any other network, including winning for the 3rd straight year the award for overall excellence in television. ABC News is America's #1 news source. With so much at stake, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 newscast and the #1 program on television.
National parks are incredibly safe places, but when you have millions of visitors coming through every year, crime will happen.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
My name is Harold Hensworth. I'm in the Rocky Mountain National Park. My wife has fallen. She's in really critical condition. I need a rescue team immediately.
I was told to go to Deer Ridge Trailhead. At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident.
A lot of things here don't add up.
From the outside looking in, Tony and Harold's marriage looks like the perfect life.
Every year on their anniversary, Harold would plan a trip.
The phones rang in, and it's my brother. My brother said, Tony's been in an accident.
She was gone.
Now we have an investigation we have to conduct.
There were small things that didn't totally add up. There's an obscure area. It was just so steep.
He said he was doing CPR the whole time.
Her lipstick was not smudged.
There was something more to this story.
Most people didn't know that Harold was married before. This is 2 wives for Harold that have died now.
And that was very suspicious.
There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
Harold told a lot of different stories.
He's not telling the truth.
That can't be possible.
Harold had purchased life insurance months prior.
He's going to make a small fortune.
I was shocked.
He had been planning this for a while.
Something's not right here.
What would you do? Continues.
Aiden, honey, please don't do that. Don't do that while Mommy's trying to work.
Mom, I'm bored.
It happens all too often. A mother who's fed up with her misbehaving child.
Aiden, can you settle down for a minute? Aiden, no, don't sit down.
I'm almost at the next level.
I don't care. We're not playing the game now. We're getting into the car. Let's go.
Mom, no!
Stop picking the back of the seat.
When are we gonna be there?
By the time they make it to the John Jock Cafe in Pleasantville, New York, our stressed out mom has had enough.
You want to go through a timeout? You want to go into a timeout? Then give it to me. Listen, tell me what you want to eat. All right, that's it. Get your coat on. Stand up and get your coat on.
But is she taking this private matter too far?
Mommy needs a break. I can't take it anymore. You're going to go outside until I tell you to come back in.
I don't want a timeout. It's too cold.
How will people react to the very public way she's chosen to discipline her child? What would you do?
I want to sit over here.
Come over here and sit down. You're not listening to Mommy. Do you have grandkids?
They tend to behave better for grandparents than they do for parents.
Ah, that's the key, huh? Aiden, if you don't listen to me, I'm going to give you a timeout.
I don't want a timeout.
You're going to get a timeout if you don't come over here and put it down. Aiden, this is your last chance. Timeout.
No.
Put your coat on. You're going outside. Pick up your bag, and I'll come out and get you when I'm ready. Go.
These customers seem concerned for little Aiden, and they have no problem telling Mom.
Because you're not relaxed, because this is not working for you. It's stressful.
You don't think this is teaching him a lesson?
No. No? No.
So your choice is either not to have any coffee and do a complete kid thing, or have the coffee in a way that's not perfect, but is a bit of a compromise for both of you.
I'm fed up with him. I've lost my patience.
It's hard. It's really, really hard. We've all been there as parents, I'm sure.
I've been there as a grandparent, so yes, too.
You'll have a better day tomorrow.
I will.
You will.
This woman takes in the scene and then takes her concern to a restaurant employee. That's actually our actress, Tracy.
This lady has her kid outside since I walked in here, and he's banging on the window, and she's yelling through this area to say, "You're in timeout."
Oh, wow.
And
that's him right there?
Ask her, what are you going to do?
You're getting ready to call the cops?
I am, because she's sleeping him out there, and he's banging on the window. And he wants to come in. Like, I don't think it's right.
But our mom pretends she's so fed up, she needs a drink.
Do you have any Bloody Marys? Do you have any Bloody Mary? Screwdriver, Bloody Mary? Do you serve anything like that?
No, we don't sell alcohol.
I need a drink. This kid is driving me crazy.
I mean, we have drinks in the cabinets.
No,
or
that's
our
not gonna
tea
do.
coffee.
With that, she's heard enough and goes outside to make that phone call.
Is someone going to come and take care of him? He's too little to be outside for 20 minutes by himself. And the mother is stressed. They're aware of the situation and they're handling it. God knows what they're doing, though.
Pretty impressive. But none of the day's customers make an impact on our mother and her son like this woman.
I'll come get you when I'm done with my meal.
As the action unfolds, she sits down with our mother. And now watch as she places a comforting hand on her back.
I'm just trying to teach my son to have a timeout. He needs to have a timeout.
You know, it's a little long. I think the timeout's been a little long. How old is he?
8.
8. They say like the age he is should be like 8 minutes for an 8-year-old. You know what I mean? Like it's been a bit long.
And people are stopping and asking him if he's okay. Strangers walking down the street. Yeah, I just wouldn't want you to get in trouble. I just need a break.
Yeah. I know.
He needs to learn a lesson.
I know. You have a hard time finding time for yourself?
I do, but it's just been going on like this all day. Just all day.
Then a surprising offer.
You know, I'm a teacher. I wouldn't mind talking to him. Like I could like hang out with him while you have your lunch. I wouldn't mind doing that. Yeah, you can sit down with me and we'll chat.
Okay.
A complete stranger offering to spend time with Aiden, giving our mom a much-needed time out of her own.
Hi, Aiden. I'm Tess. I love your sneakers. We'll go this way. Yeah, come and sit down. What grade are you in?
3rd.
Oh my God, my daughter's in 3rd grade. Her name is Ruby.
This is really sweet. This is really nice.
I love 3rd grade. What's your favorite sport?
Soccer.
Oh, my Ruby plays soccer too.
The minutes go by out in the cold.
Is your mom just mean today, or is she always mean?
And Tess Donahue continues looking for answers.
She's always mean. I was just playing with my toys and then she yelled at me.
Yeah, she said that you weren't listening. Sometimes grown-ups get in bad moods and they get really stressed out.
Yeah.
But you're a great kid, I can tell. So if you could just try to have patience with Mom and tell her you're sorry. Sometimes grown-ups don't make the best decisions.
Yeah.
But you love her.
Yeah.
Does she give you cuddles and kisses? Yeah?
I'm ready to go back inside now.
She loves you so much.
Okay.
Let me tell you. One mom knows another mom. Great talking to you. You're really smart.
When Tess and Aiden come back inside, guess who's waiting for them?
How are you? Come here. I'm John Quinones. They're actors. We wanted to see what people would do.
Oh my God. Hi, you're amazing.
This is Aiden, yes.
Hi.
No one has jumped in the way you did today. Why did you get involved?
Well, I have 3 children of my own, and I just thought it wasn't right what she did.
But you didn't tell her that.
No, I knew that wouldn't work. I was like, God, this is such like a moral dilemma, you know? You're always like, when should people get involved? But I didn't want to pry too much, and I thought, gosh, I've never taken a psychology class. I mean, I just thought of what I would say to my own children or what I would want someone to say to my children.
And that approach seemed to work, taking time to calm a child and his mother at wit's end.
This is Diana.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, you're so welcome.
Even our actress Diana is touched.
Very moved by this, and I watched you outside, and I'm a parent too, and I know how you can get to that point of utter desperation and a loss of what to do. And it was just very moving. It was very moving the way you talked to him.
Why should people get involved?
For me, I felt like I would be haunted if I didn't, but I think, gosh, maybe that was the time that I should have jumped in.
A great reminder of the importance of stepping in instead of stepping away. Next.
Oh my gosh, this is it. This is it. I think this is it.
It's that aha moment before the big day.
You will say yes to the dress. Yes to the dress.
But it's got a few wrinkles, like this saleswoman.
He's gonna love seeing you walk down the aisle.
She, my partner, and I.
You're lesbian. I don't know if I could tell you this dress.
When we come back. You're watching What Would You Do on ABC News Live.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any place else. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast, now streaming on ABC News Live.
It was a scary time in the 70s. You had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. You had to have a name for it, serial killer.
There was a human head in there. This was premeditated evil.
We have this clock. This person is going to do this again.
It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, What You Need to Know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
I risked my life. I put my family in danger. If I was caught, they would have put a bullet in my head. But it was the right thing to do. It was the only thing to do.
Terror plot foiled in Garden City, Kansas.
That would have been one of the most deadly acts of domestic terrorism ever in the United States. It would have been Oklahoma City.
He put his family, himself, in jeopardy for us.
24 hours, Assault on the Capitol, the ABC News original, exclusively on Hulu, now streaming. This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people
squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
National parks are incredibly safe places, but crime will happen.
Hey, my wife has fallen. She's in really critical condition.
At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident.
There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
There were small things that didn't totally add up.
This is 2 lives for Harold that have died now. I was shocked. Something's not right.
More Americans choose ABC News, America's #1 news source.
What Would You Do continues.
The wedding day. It's something so many young girls grow up dreaming about. And just as important, of course, the wedding dress.
It's not down for a fitting, right?
That TV show on TLC, Say Yes to the Dress, shows how daunting that wedding dress decision can be.
I definitely don't think I love it.
But then you find just the right dress.
Oh my gosh, this is it. This is it. I think this is it.
Perfect. But we wondered, what if that special moment is shattered by this?
I'm not going to sell you this dress.
Simply because the bride plans to marry another woman.
That's really disgusting. I don't condone that.
The saleswoman, of course, is an actress, and so is our bride-to-be. Our scenario was inspired by Alex Genter, a bride-to-be who was denied her wedding dress in August 2011 because she's a lesbian. And that's why we brought our hidden cameras to Bella Sposa Bridal Boutique in Denville, New Jersey.
Let the good times roll.
Oh, hi, you can come over here.
I like it, but I don't love it.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi. That's
great.
pretty. I like that.
Oh my gosh,
No,
I
this
love
looks
this.
beautiful. This looks nice.
Turn around.
This is it. I think this is it.
Your boyfriend's gonna love this. When you walk down the aisle.
My partner. It's my girlfriend.
This mother and daughter have been listening in.
Okay, so wait a minute. You're a lesbian and you're marrying another woman and you're buying a wedding dress.
The daughter doesn't say anything,
I'm sorry, I can't sell you this dress.
but she gives her mother
I can't sell
a
you
look.
this dress. I can't.
Wait, are you serious?
No, I don't condone that.
Appalled, she heads back to her dressing room and quickly changes into her street clothes.
I can't believe she won't sell me a dress.
She's headed down the aisle for the door when she's stopped by our saleswoman.
What? She wants to go. I am so sorry. No, I don't.
I'm done.
But you're marrying a man. That's fine.
No, but that's
But we'll sell you a dress. We definitely can pay.
I don't want to buy a dress here. I'm done.
Hold on one second, please. You gotta run.
Time to catch up with this runaway bride.
Hi guys, my name is John Quinones, and this is part of a TV show.
Are you?
What would you do?
Are you freaking kidding me?
No. We wanted to see whether you would step in.
I was not right. I was not going to buy anything here.
And it's a wedding dress. Your wedding?
This is for my wedding.
You were going to say no.
I was going to go somewhere else.
Why? Tell us.
Well, because it's not fair.
You could have kept quiet. But no.
Wouldn't. Absolutely not.
We're back inside the boutique.
I can't
I
believe
need you
this
to
is.
take. I
Are
need
you
you to
serious?
take the dress off.
Believe it or not, our sales clerk now starts to take off our bride's dress. This woman can't bear to look away.
I need you to take the
Oh,
dress
no,
off.
I'll do it myself.
I think what just happened here was kind of crazy. He just tried to rip the dress off of her. I'm sorry you saw all that because it's not the right thing.
I think that's ridiculous. It's not up to you who she's marrying. You're here to sell her a wedding gown. What do you care?
If she's a lesbian, I'm not selling her a dress. That's nasty.
You're nasty. I mean, you're ripping the clips off of her. That was nasty.
Would you sell a dress to somebody that's...
What do I care, Jack? I don't care. I'm here to sell a dress, right? That was my job. I would do my job and sell a dress.
Tara Rosenkrantz is ready to take her business somewhere else.
I want to talk to you.
Time to tell her it's all part of What Would You Do?
How are you? Why not acceptable? Why did you have to jump in?
It's not had nothing to do with her. It wasn't her decision. It's not her choice. All she has to do is sell her gown, and she can marry whoever she wants to marry. When the woman was gushing to her how happy she was marrying her girlfriend, and she's ripping it off of her. I just didn't think it was right.
We're rolling again. And this woman who's in to pick up her wedding veil can't help but notice our blushing bride.
That's stunning. Absolutely stunning. And you have the perfect features for it. Like you have that out. It's beautiful.
Thank you. This is it. This is it.
I don't think I can sell you this dress. I'm sorry.
Why not?
Because you're marrying a woman.
I can't believe what I'm hearing right now. No, you need to stop. You just need to stop and don't even talk to her until she comes back. You're getting that dress. That's awful.
So you believe
That's
she
awful.
should be able to...
I can't believe we're still at that point. I mean, you know, you're a disappointment. You really are. You're a disappointment. You are. You are. You really are.
I'm sorry to upset you, but don't, I mean,
Please
that's
don't
my
talk to me.
opinion.
As upset as she is, Carly Cipriano manages to give our bride a bouquet of encouragement.
Don't let that take it away from you that you just had that moment. that you found the dress. Thank you.
Time to lift this bridal veil.
There's cameras.
I asked. Boy, immediately you spoke up.
Yeah, well, because she had a moment. Like, that was, you know, when you have that moment of, this is my dress. And
We try our scenario one more time. And this mother and daughter couldn't be happier for our bride-to-be.
Yeah.
So you're gonna say yes to the dress?
Yes to the dress.
He's gonna love seeing you walk down the aisle.
She, my partner, and I. Oh,
But now the bad news.
You're lesbian. I don't know if I could tell you this dress. I'm sorry.
Just imagine how it was back in the day.
Yeah, if I was marrying a white man, I wouldn't have been sold a dress either. And I'm hurting for you. Like, I want to cry.
I want to cry myself.
Well, no, I don't want to make you. I don't want to.
The reactions from Precious Grayson and her mother, Darlette Oliver, are visceral, heart-wrenching. They take her hand.
I feel for her because when I lived in Utah and I was called the names I was, I went through prejudice, and that's what this is, unfortunately. And it's a horrible thing. It's a hurtful thing. And, you know, you don't have to agree with two women or two men. You know, you don't have to agree with it, but she loves the dress, and her money should be good anywhere.
Your words hurt. She's going to take this with her.
Mother and daughter are overcome with emotion, and so is everyone else.
Hi. Wow, you said some remarkable things about race.
I couldn't imagine the devastation of finding the dress and then being told I can't sell it to you just because of who you chose to be with.
You're still in tears.
It's not fair.
I was really feeling that. Like, it hurt me. No matter how you feel, you're not the one to judge anyone. Just let it go. I wish other people would feel that way instead of just love each other instead of hating everybody.
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Yeah.
As it turns out, so many other people feel that same way. Remember Alex Genter, our gay bride-to-be who inspired this scenario? Well, people were so touched by her story that they offered donations, everything from bridal flowers to a designer gown. She and her partner got married in 2012. So remember, when you think no one else is watching, we are. Another episode of What Would You Do is coming right up on ABC News Live.
Every day we see things, and it's not always pretty. People crossing the line, sometimes crossing way over the line. When you think no one's watching, would you step up and say something or step away? There are a lot of tough decisions out there.
So the question is, what would you do?
Hidden cameras on.
Coming up,
I just need you to take SATs for me.
$1,500 now.
paying someone else to take your college entrance exam. Is it the SATs or the CHEAT?
That's why people pay me, because I'm so smart.
No, they pay you because you're a criminal, white-collar criminal. That's why they pay you.
We are studying.
Then, the brutish bartender
Here's 20. I just want to get him something good to eat.
who has taken compassion off the menu.
He's homeless, he smells, I don't want him bothering you. He's not like the rest of us.
You're not like the rest of us, dude.
Plus, he's not getting any applause.
Oh my God, you are gorgeous. Look at you.
Is it spring break or their big break when he wants to take their photos in his hotel?
I'm a filmmaker. I see star quality. It's gonna be girls gone wild, or some gone wild, or young people gone wild.
Or just us gone wild.
That's what's up.
When you think no one is watching,
all right, we should break it.
We are.
This is like, where's the cameras? Because this is just like that. Oh.
Welcome to What Would You Do? I'm John Quinones. There are 3 letters that terrify most high school students. SAT. It's the test that helps decide college admissions. Doing well can change a student's life forever. With so much writing on one single exam, it's not surprising people have looked for ways to game the system, even tossing out the rule book to best the test. But will those watching the cheaters give them an A for ingenuity or flunk them as worst in class? The pressure brought on by those three little letters, S-A-T. Pressure that can lead some high schoolers to extreme measures.
6 students accused of cheating on the SAT and paying someone thousands of dollars to take their test.
So we wondered, what would you do if you overheard this from the table next to you?
I just need you to take the SATs for me.
$1,500 now, and then 4 years of the school you want.
You have to break a 2,000. I need to get into good schools.
We've set up our hidden cameras at Sip This, a coffee shop in Valley Stream, New York, to find out. The young women are actors, of course, and we're about to see which one of these bystanders is willing to speak up. Let's put you to the test. Will it be choice A? The two girls don't waste any time getting started.
So basically, you could take the SAT for me.
Yes, and I can guarantee you a good score.
Within moments, this man picks up on the conversation.
This is how the kids take the SAT now. It's the 21st century.
Yeah, it's like turning into like the new thing.
Right?
He tries to distract himself, looking through his bag of pastries.
Can I actually see your ID?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Hold on a second. Let me.
But when the talk turns to scores and money,
To break a 2,000, it's 1,000, and it just goes up from there.
it looks as though he might step in. But as our desperate student gets up to walk away,
Be careful of the money, okay?
I will.
he ultimately decides not to say anything. So what about choice B? We're rolling again. And just like before, our actress Esther makes it clear just how stressed out she is.
SATs is Saturday.
It's come so fast.
It just came so fast, and I'm not prepared.
And Arnold Seglia is listening to every word.
So can you do for me what you did for Jenna? Because she told me you got like a great score for her. I mean, it shouldn't be a problem because I'm not gonna get caught, right?
No, you're not.
He never stops listening.
Oh yeah, I could easily pass for you. I've done this for people who have blonde hair and blue eyes.
And yet he doesn't say a word. And we're beginning to think that just like the man in our first scene, Arnold would rather not get involved.
I have 1,000 now.
But then, to our surprise,
Not to interrupt you, wasn't there just an article, big fraud thing?
Excuse me?
Might not be my business, but you know what? She's looking to give you a lot of money, and you're going to duplicate her license. If that's what you're doing, that's fraud.
Do you think it's
That's
wrong?
illegal. Yeah, I think it's wrong. Not my business, sorry to interrupt, but you know what? People have to look out for people. If you're going to duplicate your picture on her license and take the test for her, that's fraud. You're breaking the law. So think about what you're doing.
They must
Think
have
about
not
what you're
been
doing.
as careful.
Think about what you're doing.
Did you take the SATs?
Think about what you're doing.
and he offers one last bit of scholarly advice before he leaves.
Contact an attorney before you get $2,000. Somebody who's going to take your place and take the
It's
test.
1,000.
The girl taking her place is breaking the law, and so is the girl who's hiring her to do it.
But she gets to pass the test.
Maybe she should just go study and get help and, you know, do her best and keep trying till she gets.
To all of you for attending today, including those who are observing this service remotely via the internet. Special thanks to all who have assisted with this funeral service, especially the Smith Center for hosting us today. The family is honored by the attendance of President Joseph Biden, First Lady Jill Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, Second Gentleman Mr. Doug Emhoff, and former President Barack Obama. We acknowledge the presence of hundreds of other government leaders, including Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak, the Nevada Congressional Delegation, and other esteemed members and former members of Congress. We also recognize religious leaders of many faiths, and from Senator Reid's own faith, President M. Russell Ballard of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We are here today to give gratitude for the man from Searchlight, Nevada. Shaped by a humble upbringing, Harry Reid rose to become the ultimate champion of the little guy. His lifetime of public service reflects his deep belief in serving others. Like the Apostle Paul, Harry Reid can now say, I fought the good fight. I finished my course. I have kept the faith. The opening prayer for this service will now be offered by Harry and Landra's granddaughter, Ella Joy Reid. Our first speaker will be President M. Russell Ballard, acting president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. For many of President Ballard's 93 years, he was Harry's close spiritual advisor. Following President Ballard's remarks, we will hear personal reflections from each of Harry and Landra's 5 children. First, Lana Reid Behringer, then Key Reid, followed by Josh Reid. Following Josh, Brandon Flowers will perform Be Still, a song with deep significance to the Reid family. We will then hear from Leif Reid and Rory Reid. After Rory concludes, we will be honored to hear tributes and memories from the leaders of Congress, where Senator Reid served for 34 years. First from Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, and then from Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi. Now the invocation by Ella Joy Reid.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for the opportunity to be here, honor Poppy, and celebrate his life. We thank Thee for allowing us to have known and loved him. We are grateful that Poppy is at rest and he is no longer in pain. We thank Thee for watching over him until we see him again. Please bless Poppy to know how much we love him. Please bless that we can carry his desire to learn and kind heart with us. Please help us to look after Poppy's wonderful children and take care of his favorite person, our sweet Grammy. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
You could have put the pulpit on that side, and an old man, 90 years old, wouldn't have far to walk. President and Dr. Biden, Vice President Harris, and Mr. Emhoff, former President Obama, Speaker Pelosi, Leader Schumer, and other distinguished friends, I greet you warmly as we gather to honor and remember our friend and colleague, Harry Reid. To Landra, Lana, Rory, Leif, Josh, and Key, it's an honor for me to be invited to speak as we pay tribute to your beloved husband, father, grandfather, and our dear friend. I know Harry loves each and every one of you deeply. I bring the love of the First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Harry and Landra joined our church soon after their marriage at age of 19 and they've been faithful disciples of Jesus Christ with firm belief that we are all brothers and sisters, children of a loving Father in heaven. In my calling as an apostle of Jesus Christ, I had many personal visits with my friend Harry. We would counsel together and share personal experiences of faith. In more recent years, we shared a similar plight. We each lost sight in one eye at about the same time. He in his right eye and me in my left. We used to remind each other that we could walk down the street arm in arm. He could help me see things on the left, and I could help him see things on the right. At times, Senator Reid, he really was all business. When he would call, the conversation was usually quick and to the point. And when our conversation was over, I don't ever remember him saying goodbye. The phone clicked, and the line was dead. That was Harry Reid. This morning, as I was with his family, I was finally able to say to my dear friend, goodbye. But there was another side to Harry from his humble beginnings in Searchlight, Nevada, to his eventual prominence as a world leader. Harry Reid was a man of faith in word and in deed. In the New Testament, Jesus Christ taught, "Inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me." Harry cared for the least of these, those who were less fortunate, hungry, sick, or those who had any number of challenges. Senator Reid was also a great teacher of this principle. On one occasion, when speaking to students at the Brigham Young University, he taught about his conviction for service. He said, "Many have chosen to pursue an educational direction pointed toward lucrative field. There's nothing wrong," he said, "with seeking a career that will bring you financial success. But never forget the clarion call of the Book of Mormon prophet, King Benjamin. When you are in the service of your fellow beings, you are only in the service of your God." My dear friend Harry lived what he taught. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we strive to visit and care for the individual needs of others. When we minister this way, we are representing Jesus Christ and acting as his agents to watch over, lift, and strengthen those around us. Of Harry Reid's religious leaders, many have commented that he was the best minister in their congregation. Even during his years as one of the nation's most powerful political leaders, he always made time to minister to the least of these, and he did it one by one. Because of his faith in Jesus Christ, he never forgot to reach out to the one. To you, Landra, and to your family, we have the assurance that Harry has returned to the God who gave us life and awaits his joyful reunion with you after this life. And through the perfect and eternal atonement of Jesus Christ, you and your family can be reunited. I share my love for you and my witness as an apostle of the Lord Jesus Christ that this is true. And I do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Hello. When my family was planning today's memorial, my major request was there be a woman on the program. But it's possible that may have backfired. I didn't think that would mean me. But I'm actually very glad to talk about my father and show you how much we love our dad. Earlier this week, when I was thinking about what I might say, my cousin sent me a eulogy my dad gave at for his mom, my grandma Lolo, at her funeral. He said, and I quote, "It was not one thing that reminded me of my mother, but many little things." In remembering my father here today, I will follow his lead by remembering him in many little ways. There are so many little things I'd like you to know about him. For one, he was just really entertaining to be around because of his particular sense of humor. He made us laugh all the time. No matter where we were or what we were doing, he made life more fun and joyful. Sometimes during church, when we got restless, he would jot down a little poem, usually a Roses Are Red type poem, but it wasn't the kind of ending to a Roses Are Red poem that you would expect. It was really off the wall, and it made us enjoy church just that much more. There are As kids, there were endless games of hide and seek with him, and he never tired of tossing us on the bed when he got home from work. He would take us to Baskin-Robbins or Lovett's Frozen Custard almost every night in the summer. And he allowed us to get whatever we wanted. He was the same way when he took us out to eat, partly because he liked our leftovers. He always let us pick, and that gave us some autonomy to feel like our choices were good choices. Also, he was always generous, so that was a part of him allowing us to pick what we wanted. When I was a kid, my dad used to run marathons. A lot of times he would go on a training run and tell us to come find him. We'd get in the car with my mom to look for him and follow him until he was ready to stop. Or sometimes we'd let him out of the car at Railroad Pass and then he would run to Searchlight. Once when I was a very little kid, I got to follow him on my bike all the way down the Las Vegas Strip. When my mom found out where we'd been, that was the last time I was able to follow him down the Las Vegas Strip. My dad was a great friend, and he had an eclectic group that he stayed close to his whole life. There were many times I got to hear him call many of you that are sitting in this room, or probably most of you sitting in this room. He enjoyed it when we brought our friends home. As we grew up, our house was a gathering place. We loved to be at home with our parents, and they welcomed our friends. My dad loved this and spent a lot of time getting to know our friends, and they became his friends. Later, when Steve and I had our own kids, we tried to follow the example my parents had set. My parents spent a lot of time at our house too and got to know our children's friends, and we had many Sunday dinners with Grammy and Poppy at our house, something we have missed since they've moved back to Las Vegas. Our children have so many stories about things their Poppy said to their friends, some of them shocking, but always good-natured. About 20 years ago, my parents downsized. There was about a 6-month gap between the sale of their house and when they were ready to move into their condo. So they moved into our basement during that time. The bulk of the basement was the kids' playroom, with a small guest room off to the side. We loved having my parents live with us, but it wasn't exactly a 5-star accommodations. My parents shared the trundle bed that all my brothers at one point had slept in. And every morning, my dad was forced to maneuver around toys before his security detail picked him up to take him to the Capitol. At that time, I bet he was the only senator who had to navigate Legos, Playmobil, and the beautiful puppet stage that was made like a castle that my husband Steve and my mom painted. I look back at that time so fondly because he was pulled in so many different directions. But when he was home, he was just Poppy. He didn't want to talk about work. He wanted to talk about us. He made things fun and joyful for my kids in the same way he had made them fun and joyful for me. And just like he made us a priority growing up, he made all his grandchildren his priority. My dad always went out of his way to do things to make me feel special. My all-time favorite surprise was on my 11th birthday, when my parents took me to see the Osmonds. Before the concert, I got to go backstage and meet all of them, especially Donnie, which made my 11-year-old heart skip a beat, and I could barely breathe. And I have the pictures to prove it. A friend said to me this week, "Thank you for sharing your dad with the country." And at first I was confused because while it is a very sweet sentiment, it's not totally true. The truth is, I didn't feel like I had to share my dad with anyone. He was always there for our family, and he made time for anything that was important to us. So while I am grateful that he was so beloved by all of you, and that the country shares in our family's mourning, he never made us share his time and attention with anyone, and I will be forever grateful for that. This is the most important thing in my talk. Nobody loved me the way my dad loved me. He was a wonderful father who loved me unconditionally, and he always made my mom, me, and my brothers his priority. I will miss him greatly. I will love him forever, and I am grateful that families are forever.
My father wrote me letters. The one on the screen is etched with my tears of admiration from when I read it. He wrote in part, "Words when spoken can often be repetitious, fleeting, or forgotten. Written words are more permanent. The year of 18 is tough. I know, because I was 18, and I can remember how difficult it was. Be persistent, be strong, do what you know to be right. As the trials of life ebb and flow, always remember, not only do you have a father standing by, but also a good friend. You see, you have not only been a good son to me, but also a good friend. Never hesitate to call upon me. Thanks for making it so easy to love and appreciate you. Love, Dad. He taught me through letters, conversations, and most importantly, his example. Before the first day of school, he taught me how to deal with a bully. He taught me how to throw a punch, but cautioned me never to throw the first punch, but to make sure that you take care of the bully. He also asked me to look for children in the lunchroom that didn't have friends and to try and befriend them. Periodically, I'd show up in the lunchroom at school with a sandwich, cheese, paper on both sides still attached, and in the bottom of the bag, a whole raw onion. He taught me humor and showed me his love this way. We played basketball one-on-one regularly. He taught me honesty by beating me badly for years. He never took it easy on me and could trash talk with the best of them. When I finally beat him, his defense resembled the Detroit Pistons teams of the 1980s. Whenever I got close, he fouled me really hard. My father is loyal and never forgot where he came from. He told me that when he was a child, he read books from his school while in Searchlight, and it helped him to dream about the world that he wanted to see. He always shared his love of reading and poetry with us. He taught me the importance of thought and reflection. Many nights after my mom had gone to sleep, he'd be in his small closet, alone, on his knees, praying in solitude, or sitting on his stool reading scripture or a book, late into the night for inspiration. My father taught me to treat everybody equally and not based on race or social status. About once a year, we'd get a knock on the door from a stranger that was offering to trim our trees. Usually the trees didn't need to be trimmed, but he let them trim the trees anyway, and he even let them pick their price. He taught that everybody deserves the dignity of a job. My father taught me to love nature. This last month, we walked together in the morning. We enjoyed the desert sky, clouds, the smell of the rain, and the beautiful trees and cactus. The day before my father passed, I walked in to see him. I said, "Hello, it's Key." He opened his beautiful blue eyes. I told him I loved him. He told me he knew. Then, instead of him hanging up or ending the call like usual, Similar to those calls that you've all described, I knew something was up. He looked at me and gave me a long, warm goodbye. My father was my best friend. He knew when to write, when to call, when to reach out. His example was one of love. Love of his parents, love of my siblings and our partners and his grandchildren, love of his friends, love of those without a voice, love for his colleagues and staff, and a love for his country, and most of all, a love for my mother. A little later that day, my brother Rory asked my father if he was scared. He hadn't been speaking for quite some time, but said a loud, powerful no. Then Rory asked if he was worried about my mom. He said in almost a whisper, yes. 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8 reads, "Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends." My father's nickname as a kid in Searchlight and at Basic High School was Pinky. So please allow me to insert the word pinky for love in this scripture. Pinky is patient and kind. Pinky does not envy or boast. Pinky is not arrogant or rude. Pinky doesn't insist on its own way. Pinky is not irritable or resentful. Pinky does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Pinky bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Pinky never ends. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
I always enjoyed spending time with my dad. And when I was 8 years old, I was really jealous of my older brother, Leaf, that he got to go into work with my dad in his law office and be a runner in his office during the summer. I was told I couldn't go because I wasn't old enough to run around downtown Las Vegas by myself. I was not satisfied with that answer, and I wasn't going to stand for that type of injustice. So one morning, I decided to hide in the back of our family station wagon that my dad took to work. This was not a well-thought-out plan. First problem with my plan is when I got into the station wagon, I was wearing pajamas. Second problem was it turns out my dad wasn't going to his office that morning. He was going to the courthouse. And so as my dad was driving to the office, he said that he felt the sense that somebody was in the car with him. And this was the time when my dad was chairman of the Nevada Gaming Commission, and there were some rough people about in Las Vegas. And so then he saw some hair sticking up over the back seat of the station wagon. And according to him, he thought about what kind of evasive action he needed to take. He was worried until he recognized the head of hair. And I know it's hard for you to imagine right now, but when I was 8 years old, I had a nice, thick, curly mane of blonde hair. Once I heard my dad yell, "Josh," I knew the jig was up. And since my dad had to get to the hearing, my punishment was to stay outside the courthouse in my pajamas with one of the court bailiffs and wait for my sister to pick me up. In spite of that failed stowaway attempt when I was 8, one certainty that I've had throughout my entire life is that my dad loved me unconditionally. I know this because he told me this, just like my other siblings. He'd tell me through phone calls, he'd write me letters and notes that I keep in my law office today and that I read and reflect on when times get tough or stressful. And I'm very appreciative that the love that my dad showed me throughout my life. Now, I realize it might be a little bit out of the ordinary to read from the congressional record at a funeral, but I want to read some of the words that my dad said on the Senate floor on March 30th, 2004. He said, "I wish the people I work with in the Senate knew my father. My father was named Harry Reid, the same name I have. I always looked up to my dad. My dad was excuse me. My dad was uneducated, didn't graduate from the 8th grade, but he's very smart. For example, he was a miner and could go underground with a compass. Come above ground and create a map. People in college cannot do that. He was a carpenter, he was a blacksmith, and he was a much bigger man than I am. I always admired his physical strength. The reason I mentioned Harry Reid, my father, is last night my 15th grandchild was born, a little boy. I mentioned my father because my son Josh told me this morning that they have named my grandson after me. So I have a little grandson named Harry Reid. I hope as the years go by, that little boy will look at his grandfather in the same way I looked at my dad. I'm proud of the name Harry Reid. I even signed my H like my dad did. I hope I can set an example that my grandson will respect and admire. I hope my grandson will have an example set by me that is one he will believe in, family and keeping families together, and being a young man who conducts himself in a proper manner, and that hopefully some of the things I have done and will do will be something he will look to as a role model that maybe he will adhere to. So I want the record to reflect how much I appreciate this great honor to have someone who, through all generations of time, will be the third Harry Reid. I wanted to read this statement to you because I believe it sums up how my dad saw his role as a father and a grandfather. I'm eternally grateful for the example that he set for me and for my children. My dad always would tell me how much he loved me, and he would often tell me when I had my own kids that you can never tell your family that you love them too much. And I appreciate that, what he taught me. I'm appreciative for the positive example and impact that he's had in the lives of me and my children. Dad was so proud of my son Liam, who followed him in his footsteps by attending Utah State, and where he referees soccer games right across at the high school right across the street from where my mom and dad lived in Logan, Utah. My dad used to love calling Liam and hearing his tales of bravery as a soccer referee dealing with unruly soccer parents. And my son Harry, who Dad spoke about on the Senate floor 18 years ago, is now a senior in high school. theater student at Las Vegas Academy of the Arts, just down the street from here. After my son Harry told my dad that he wanted to pursue acting, my dad wrote to him and told him that it's better to take risks in trying to pursue what you want in life than to settle for a life without meaning. Just like he did with me, my dad always made sure that Liam and Harry knew that he loved them and that he was proud of them. And that couldn't be proven anymore by my dad's last words to my son Harry on the day before he passed away. And as my brother mentioned, my dad wasn't speaking a lot this day. But my son Harry had been sitting at his grandfather's side, and when he was leaving, he went and held his hand and told his grandfather that he loved him. My dad immediately responded, "I love you even more." I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Be still, go on to bed. Nobody knows what lies ahead. And life is short, to say the least. We're in the belly of the beast. Be still, wild and young. Long may your innocence reign, like shells on the shore. And may your limits be unknown, and may your efforts be your own. If you ever feel you can't take it anymore, don't break character. You've got a lot of heart. Is this real or just a dream? Rise up like the sun and labor till the work is done. Be still, one day you'll leave. Fearlessness on your sleeve. When you come back, tell me, what did you see? Was there something out there for me? Be still, close your eyes. Soon enough you'll be on your own, steady and straight. And if they drag you through the mud, it doesn't change what's in your blood. Don't break character. You've got a lot of heart. Is this real or just a dream? Be still. Be still. Be still. much heart. Is this real or just a dream? Rise up like the sun and labor till the work is done. Rise up like the sun and labor till the work is. Rise up like the sun and labor till the work is done.
That was amazing to hear. The day before my dad passed, all of us were together, collectively trying to ease his pain and to comfort him. Music was the only thing that helped. We took his phone out. We were shuffling through his songs, asking what he wanted to hear. Bob Dylan, no response. Bruce, nothing. And then we said, Brandon, you want to hear the Killers? And he smiled and he gave us a huge thumbs up. So I want everyone to know that was the last musical request he ever made. We've heard this a little bit already. I could probably start my thoughts this morning by calling for a raise of hands. Did my dad ever hang up the phone on you without saying goodbye? So many of us here, Leader Schumer, the Speaker, presidents, could share their stories. All of us have a story about my dad ending a phone call with them abruptly. Sometimes he even left you talking for a few minutes before you realized that he'd hung up. He once said in an interview, when the conversation is over, I hang up. I've offended people. I don't mean to. But when there's no need to talk anymore, the call is over. That's part of the narrative of his life. Sami was the hang-up guy. In our family, ending a call early, and sometimes it's a contest for us, is a verb we call Harry reading. But this morning, I want to help everyone see this kind of humorous trait that he had in a different light. And I think maybe from what you've heard already, you know that as busy as he was on the Senate floor, speaking with a head of state, whatever it was, my dad always took our calls. And he never made us feel that he was busy or didn't have the time to give us a moment to help us. So when he hung up on you, maybe so quickly, it isn't as much about him being brusque as it is or was about him being devoted to my mom or my family. You've seen from my brothers, my sister that spoke, he also took the time to write us letters or notes. Driving over here this morning, we were going through our phones. He was funny when he would text us back. One of my sons texted him when he found out about his diagnosis with cancer to say he was worried, we were praying for you. A son that goes to college in Hawaii. And my dad's response was, "You're far from the volcano." You're safe. There were a lot of responses like that. I've kept those notes and messages that he wrote. He took the time during the most challenging times of my life to write me almost weekly. I've kept those notes like my brothers have and my sister, to go back to and to look at and to read like scripture, to reminisce about the old times that they came from, and to get his advice again. Here are some of the words to me that he preserved in these notes and letters. After the birth of my first son, he wrote, "My thoughts are with you often. It seems only yesterday you were such a tiny little boy. Now you are a fine young man and a father yourself. Whatever life has in store for you, you have a backup in your father. Remember this always. Be happy. You have much to give. Realize how much we've been blessed with. This is not because we've earned it, but instead because God has given us a duty to care. You must do this daily." Once he wrote me from the Senate floor, from his desk, during a speech by a senator I won't name, I don't see here, that he said was a little boring. He wrote, "Take good care of yourself. Take your rest when it's available. Exercise. Concentrate on your work. Never return and be sorry for not doing well. Success is not determined in the moment, but by the fruits of your labor and the seeds you've planted. Why am I telling you this? These things you already know." Just before Christmas in 1988, when I was in South America serving the first few months of a 2-year mission, he wrote, "For this Christmas season, you may be assured that my thoughts and prayers are with you. I worry about you often in faraway Ecuador. But I also think of life and its brevity. The formation of you as a person in the spirit of Christmas is obtainable more easily with the work of serving others. I know of your lonely times, but be strong, for the time will swiftly pass when we are reunited. Until then, do well at your assignment." Years later, he wrote, "It's hard to comprehend the swift passage of time. Make the most of it as you have. These are the days that make fatherhood. I owe you so much because you have been a great son." Knowing him and seeing the life that he lived, it's humbling to think about how devoted he was to us. He was and is our hero. What did we do to deserve our hero to be our father? People know his story. He lived the American dream, you could say, from Searchlight to Washington. From my time as a young boy, it even then seemed fictional. But the reality was that he was a man who simply chose to do his best every day, to do his duty, to take care of his stewardship. Part of that work was to be our father. Part of that work was to be my mother's soulmate. Part of that work was to be your senator or colleague. His devotion and steadfastness in everything he did is probably the best definition of Harry reading. Shortly after I left for college, he wrote me to say, make the most of your time. As it is said in the Book of Mormon, this life is the time for men to prepare to meet God. Yea, behold, the day of this life is the day for men to prepare his labors. As we heard in the song that Brandon just sung to us, my dad never broke character. He rose up like the sun every day and labored until last week when his work was done. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Good morning. As you've seen, the Reid's kids traveled as a pack. And my dad was always looking to provide us an adventure. One summer, he borrowed a friend's boat to take us on an outing. We were on a lake. I don't remember if it was Mead or Mojave, when all of a sudden, the engine stalled. As my dad tried over and over to restart it, the boat began to drift toward a rocky outcropping. Alarmed, he pointed towards the back of the boat and he said, "Rory, throw the anchor overboard." As I hurriedly tried to locate the anchor, my dad, his volume increasing, repeated himself. "Throw it, Rory. Throw the anchor." I found it. And I did as he told me to do. And just as I threw it, I realized it wasn't tied to anything. I have no idea how we got back to shore that day. But as you've heard from my siblings, my father had a keen sense of what we needed as children. And I had a desire to have no adventure. I wanted to just stay home, read a book, watch a movie. So I shouldn't have been surprised one day when he came home and said, "Hey, Rory, I signed you up for Pop Warner football." Look at me, I'm not built for football. But he was at every game the little casinos had that year. And I still don't know why I played football. I really don't have any reason to be concussed regularly, other than, as I've thought about it, the reason I played football was because it gave me time with my father. He loved it more than I did. And it became central to our relationship as I was a teenager. He came to every high school football game I had. And I remember after one big game, my teammates wanted to go out and celebrate. I went home for one reason. I wanted to talk to my dad about the game. And one of my friends called and said, "Hey, where are you?" we're out, somewhere doing this or that. And I mouthed to my dad, please tell me I can't go out. And he did, and I stayed home with him and talked about the game. Later, my adventures with my father became more political. In 1986, I told my dad I wanted to volunteer on his Senate campaign, and he seemed real pleased. When I was told I was the campaign's official rural Nevada representative, just like football, I feigned excitement. I put a box of pamphlets in my Cutlass Supreme, and I hit the road. My first assignment was in Ely. Nobody on the campaign had the courtesy to let me know that White Pine County is not Reid country. When I arrived there, I checked into the Copper Queen Motel. I didn't have an event till later that evening, and there's not a lot to do in Ely, so I decided to go knock doors. At the first door, a young girl answered. I asked her if her parents were home, and she said to follow her. We walked through her house, into the backyard, where her father, a burly fellow with a garden hoe in hand, crouched, working. When he looked up at me, I said very proudly, my name is Rory Reid. My father is Congressman Harry Reid. Before I could say another word, the gentleman spewed some expletives, raised the hoe above his head, and literally chased me from the yard. So I went back to the Copper Queen and watched a movie. When my dad called to check in later that evening, I told him about my day, and I just remember him laughing. He laughed and laughed, and then he said, wait until you get to Elko County. They really love me there. I've also been thinking a lot about a moment I had with my dad when I was very young. I was a boy. I was in the hills of Searchlight with him. One of his brothers was there. I think it was Don. My brother Leaf was there, if I remember right. My dad carried a flashlight as he walked a few steps ahead of me. I didn't know where we were going. After a few minutes, we approached a dark opening of a horizontal mine shaft that disappeared deep into the hillside. As I leaned to one side, he turned on his flashlight, and I peered around him. And when he shined his light into the blackness, I could see the reflection of two bright red eyes that quickly approached, and then a rat scurried past us. And my dad must have known I was anxious, so he grabbed two of my small fingers. He hooked them in his belt loop. He said, stay close. And I followed him into the shaft, bathed in the light he provided. But any discussion of our family or my dad should begin and end in one place, Landra. She was the center of his universe. They met as teenagers. They eloped when they were 19, still teenagers. In over 62 years, they provided us a loving example of how a real partnership could work. Near the end of his life, my dad asked for his glasses. He was real sick and couldn't reach for them himself. So I put them on his face, and for the longest time, he just stared at my mom. There was no need for words. This morning, our family was guided here by a police escort, an apostle of our faith then offered his blessing to us. As you saw, a military procession presented the casket of my father in this grand hall. The leaders of the United States Congress are here in his honor. Presidents Obama and Biden will grace us with their words, and next week my dad will lie in state in the United States Capitol Rotunda in the same spot Abraham Lincoln rested. But what I'll cherish most and never forget is what I saw in the private, quiet moments that I was privileged to share close to a Nevada giant. May the God of heaven and earth continue to ensure that his soul rests in peace. Goodbye, Dad. Till we meet again.
First, to Lana and Key and Josh and Leaf and Rory. What beautiful, beautiful, amazing words. Nothing anyone could ever say would do better than to show what a great man and wonderful father your dad was. Thank you. Thank you. Now, it's truly an honor for me to speak about my dear friend and my mentor, Harry Reid of Searchlight, Nevada, as he would proudly refer to himself. First, let me say to Landra, the love of Harry's life for 62 years, who he called his rock. The only time I ever saw Harry cry is when he told me Landra had had an awful car accident and had broken so many bones. He said over and over again, tears streamed down his cheeks. My poor little Landra. Poor little Landra. Landra, I know nothing can replace the hole in your heart right now. But just know that every single person in this room, and literally thousands more across the nation, are holding you in their hearts as you endure this painful loss with your family. I lost my dad a month ago, but he's still with me, just as I know Harry is with all of us and will always be. 5 years ago, at the unveiling of Harry's official portrait, I said, it'll be quite some time until we see another like Harry Mason Reid. 5 years later, that statement remains as true as ever. He was one of a kind. The presence of so many distinguished guests at this memorial, President Biden, President Obama, Speaker Pelosi, Elder Ballard of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, and so many others, so many of my colleagues who came here, both present and those who previously served in the Senate. All of us being here is proof of the wide and deep impact that Harry had on this world. Now, that being said, no doubt, Harry would be extremely annoyed and embarrassed that so many of us made a trip out to Las Vegas for him. I know nothing he'd want less than to sit through a bunch of speeches talking about how great he was. But I knew Harry well, and even though he wouldn't want it, I know a part of him would enjoy it. He'd sort of be like Sid Caesar after he got some applause. No, please, no more applause. I got to know Harry when I came to the Senate in 1999. Here was this man, soft-spoken Mormon from Searchlight, a town that was miles away from nowhere, at least in my mind. And here I was, a brash Jewish kid out of Brooklyn, a borough that's nearly as populous as the state of Nevada. We were a match made in heaven. I quickly learned that just beneath Harry's soft-spoken nature was a truly honest and original character. There are so many stories. Let me tell you one. Back in 2012, during the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte, Harry called me all excitedly and summoned me to his hotel room late at night. I knocked on the door and Harry let me in. I'm not sure if Landra remembers, but she was there. I thought we were going to discuss some important issue about the next day's convention. But before I could gather my thoughts, Harry pulled me aside into the small little bathroom. We were virtually on top of each other, and he lowered his voice. "Chuck, I want you to take care of something important," he said, before pulling out a wad of cash out of his wallet and peeling off 4 $100 bills. "You know," he said, "you've been working hard and doing a lot of the right things to be Democratic leader, but you need to dress better. Please buy some better shoes." Now, at first I thought Harry pulled me into this little bathroom because he didn't want Landra to see him wasting $400 on the Senate's worst-dressed member. But when I asked Harry about it later, he said to me he didn't want to embarrass me in front of Landra. That was Harry to a T. It was no secret that Harry didn't care for the decorum of public office, but he did know how to dress his part. He cut his hair regularly, he shined his shoes, he wore nice suits from clothiers like Hickey Friedman that I couldn't afford. But a few years later, I got the better of Harry when I showed up to the Senate wearing a Hickey Freeman suit of my own. Harry was surprised. He said, "Chuck, I thought you said you could never afford a Hickey Freeman suit." I told him I can't, so I visited the warehouse in Rochester and bought one at a wholesale price. Harry stopped slipping me money for clothes after that. Now, to be clear, I don't just travel around the state looking for good deals on clothing. For example, as many of you know, every year I attend and speak at dozens of college graduation ceremonies around New York every May and June. Harry, of course, knew about this tradition, and he thought it was hilarious. In fact, he liked it so much that one day he gathered all 100 of his staffers into his office and asked me to deliver the entire 15-minute speech to all of them. But after I became Democratic leader, he started to worry about my habit. Every graduation season, he'd call up my wife, Iris, who's here today, and plead with her. "You gotta stop him from going to every graduation and every event. He's gotta garner his strength and his health." That's just who Harry was. If you were lucky enough that he cared about you, called you his friend, and he cared about you with every fiber of his being. Sometimes you could even say cared a little too much. You know, Landra wasn't the only woman I've seen Harry kiss passionately on the lips. It was back in 2006. Harry and I were watching the election returns together. They announced our friend Claire McCaskill was the winner of the Senate race in Missouri, and we would take back the Senate. And I kid you not, Harry went up to the TV screen and smacked Claire on his lips on hers. His lips remained attached to the TV screen for a full 10 seconds. He kissed Claire's image so passionately, I had to get up and wipe the copious spittle off the TV screen. That's how much we all loved Harry. So Harry, in short, was one of the most incredible individuals I've ever met. The sort of person you come across only a handful of times in your entire life. He was tough as nails, fighter to his core, but also one of the most compassionate individuals you could ever imagine. He never forgot where he came from, always stuck up for the underdog and the little guy. I believe Harry drew a lot of that compassion from his faith. He grew up, of course, as everyone knows, in a town with more than a dozen brothels and no church. But as many here know, after Harry moved to Henderson and met Landra, they both converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Harry kept the Book of Mormon in his office, and I'd like to read a verse from 2 Nephi, chapter 9, that gives me great comfort after the loss of my dear, dear friend. and mentor. Oh, how great the plan of our God. For on the other hand, the paradise of God must deliver up the spirits of the righteous, and the grave deliver up the body of the righteous. And the spirit and the body is restored to itself again, and all men become incorruptible and immortal. They are living souls. They are living souls. When you lose someone special, they're never truly gone. They always stay with you. For those of us in the Senate Democratic Caucus, I think that was especially true this past week as we observe the anniversary of the violent insurrection against our U.S. Capitol, one of the darkest moments for our democracy in living memory. The day saw so many acts of selflessness and heroism by our U.S. Capitol Police, who once counted among their esteemed ranks one Harry Mason Reid, who served as an officer while studying at George Washington School of Law. In so many ways, Harry was a guardian and steward of the Senate, literally and figuratively. He took great care of the Senate as an institution, but he also knew that the Senate had to adapt to changing times. As we confront the challenges of the coming weeks and months ahead, I take comfort knowing that Harry is with us in spirit, walking alongside us. He's right there as we continue the work he dedicated himself to for so many years. God rest his immortal soul, and may his memory be a blessing to all of us.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is indeed a great honor to join this tribute to the towering titan of public service, Senator Harry Reid. Wasn't it deeply moving for all of us to hear Lana and Rory and Leif and Josh and Key speak so lovingly of their father? You, his children, along with his many precious grandchildren and his darling great-grandchild, are his greatest pride. But hearing you speak about him shows us what a source of strength you are to him. Of course, the love and happiness he shared with his adoring and beautiful wife, Landra, was a source of joy to all of us who know them. All of us here today are here personally to celebrate the life of our dear friend Harry. Some of us, including 2 presidents of the United States, the vice presidents, members of both the Senate and the House, are also here officially to salute a legendary statesman. I have the privilege as Speaker of the House to bring the sympathy of the House of Representatives, where Harry once served. Chuck will say, not as long as he served in the Senate, but I do lay claim to Harry because that's where I first met him. I wasn't in Congress then, but he was in the House, and he was running for the United States Senate. It was 1985, in time for the 86 election. George Marcus is here, who took up his cause in San Francisco. My husband, Paul, is here, and Harry was a high priority for us in winning the Senate. So I'm, as Speaker of the House, pleased to join our distinguished Majority Leader, Steny Hoyer, our members of the Nevada delegation, Dina Titus, Steve Horsford, and Susie Lee, to bring greetings of all of our colleagues, to some we all viewed as a great person. I have a great deal I want to say about Harry, but you know Harry, he was a man of few words, and he wanted everybody else to be a person of few words. And again, we'll go to the phone calls because I immodestly say that I probably got hung up the most by Harry Reid 2 or 3 times a day for 12 years. That is, official working days, sometimes Saturday and Sunday. But anyway, even if we had a really succinct conversation, Harry, subject, this. Problem, this. Timing, this. Even if it was that succinct, you're not, click. So sometimes I even called him back and said, Harry, I was singing your praises. I was thanking you for the great job you did in the legislation and the rest. I don't want to hear it. Click. I even said to him when he was announcing his retirement, I want to have a big dinner, invite all of your friends that you've served with in the past, in the House, in the Senate, and the rest. I don't want to do it. But I want to sing, for them to sing your praises. I don't want to do it. Save the money, feed the poor. Harry Reid. His modesty made him unique, you might say, in politics. But his humility was rooted in his strong values from a humble childhood, rising from searchlight to the spotlight and becoming one of the most celebrated and consequential Senate leaders in history. Yet, throughout his more than 4 decades of public service, and even at the highest levels, he never forgot his North Star, to fight for working families like his own and to fight for Nevada. Indeed, Harry loved his home state, you know that. He did everything he could to ensure Nevadans' voices were heard, whether protecting the state's natural environment or its political environment, especially its coveted role in the presidential selection process. To observe Harry lead and legislate was to see a master at work, fearless, strategic, knowledgeable, and brilliant. He was a pioneer. Saw it like a pioneer. As Senate leader, few could rival Harry's understanding of his senators, their states, their needs, their ambitions. And in all of our conversations, before he hung up, I never heard Harry say an unkind word about any of his Senate colleagues, Democratic or Republican. For the 12 years we served together as leaders in our respected houses, I had the privilege of seeing his mastery firsthand, rescuing American families with the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, protecting hardworking consumers with the Dodd-Frank reforms, and championing the passage of the Affordable Care Act, just to name a few, under the leadership of President Barack Obama and Vice President Joe Biden. When he retired, and we would no longer be speaking constantly on the phone, he came to my office. This was when he announced his retirement. He said, Nancy, I have something for you to remember me by. I thought it might be a handwritten note or special photo. Instead, he unveiled a massive bald eagle, stuffed, but the wings still capable of fluttering in the breeze. Shocked, I said, Harry, did you go hunting and kill an endangered species? He said, no. He died flying into a power line, and I called him Sparky. Whether symbolic of his patriotism with the bald eagle, his environmentalism, or his dry sense of humor, and dry it was, it is one of the finest and most curious gifts I've ever received, and a subject of great question in the Speaker's office. Today, this majestic bird has flown from the Senate leader's office over to the Speaker's office, appropriately and with his permission, now called Harry. For his great legislative achievements, his most enduring public legacy will be that he was beloved, a word not often used to describe political leaders. He was beloved by his colleagues, by his staff, by maintenance workers, and by the Capitol Police, and as the leader mentioned, with whom he served as a young man as the Capitol Policeman. Truly beloved by all because he treated everyone with dignity and respect. Next week, Leaders Schumer and I will have the solemn privilege of welcoming Harry back to the Capitol to Lions State, a proper tribute for an historic, patriotic American. May it be a comfort to Landra and the beautiful family, all who love him, that so many Americans mourn with you at this sad time. Paul and I, who loves Landra and loves Harry, send you our personal sympathy and love. God truly blessed America with the life and legacy of Harry Reid. May he rest in peace.
Thank you all. We're grateful for the entertaining, loving, and tender memories that have been shared. We will now be honored to hear from another of Senator Reid's very talented friends, Carole King, who at the request of Landra will perform In the Name of Love. Former President Barack Obama will then deliver the eulogy. Following President Obama's remarks, we will hear from the President of the United States, Joseph R. Biden. At the conclusion of the President's remarks, the closing prayer and benediction will be given by a granddaughter, Savannah Janes Reid. Please remain in your seats after the closing prayer for a special send-off.
President and First Lady Biden, Vice President Harris and Second Gentleman Emhoff, Peter Schumer, Speaker Pelosi, Elder Ballard, most of all to Harry's beloved Landra, Reid children and grandchildren, friends, and former staff. It's a great honor to be with you today to pay tribute to my friend Harry Reid. Now, to be clear, and as Chuck mentioned in his remarks, I suspect Harry himself would not have wanted to sit through this thing. Harry did not like being the center of attention. It made him a little awkward. He was uncomfortable when people said too many nice things about him. But as he looks down on us today, Harry is going to have to suck it up. Because few people have done more for this state, this country, than this driven, brilliant, sometimes irascible, deeply good man from Searchlight, Nevada. I first met Harry in 2005 after I'd been elected to the Senate and Harry had been elevated to become Democratic leader. And I was the sole African American in the Senate at the time, a mixed kid with a funny name. And given how different our backgrounds were, I did not know how well Harry and I would hit it off. He was older, of course. His kids were grown. I didn't know what kind of music he liked, but I figured he didn't listen to Jay-Z. On the issues, he had a reputation for being a little more conservative than I was, reflecting the politics of his western state. So he invited me to his office for a chat shortly after I'd been sworn in. There was not a lot of small talk. In fact, there was not a lot of talk at all. He asked me what committee assignments I wanted. I told him. He said he'd see what he could do. Half the time, his voice was so soft, I could barely hear what he was saying. Afterwards, my senior colleague from Illinois, Dick Durbin, asked me how it went. I said, man, I don't know. The whole conversation lasted maybe 10 minutes. He did not seem particularly pleased with my taking up his time. Don't worry, Dick said. If Harry didn't like you, it would have only lasted 5 minutes. That was Harry. As has been observed, Harry was not a schmoozer or a backslapper. He did not regale you with long, drawn-out stories, and he did not appreciate long, drawn-out stories. Despite the years he'd spent in Congress, despite all the power he wielded, his reputation as being the consummate Washington insider, what I came to realize was that Harry always remained something of an outsider in Washington. Which makes sense, given the remarkable path to the Senate that he had taken, a path that was at least as unlikely, if not more unlikely, than mine. Others have mentioned Harry's extraordinary journey out of Searchlight. Tiny desert town, an hour away from just about everywhere. how Harry had to hitchhike more than 40 miles each way to Henderson and stay with relatives just to go to high school. How he put himself through college and law school, moonlighting as a uniformed Capitol Police officer to help cover tuition and support a young family. Fair to say it was not easy. There must have been times where he felt doubt about achieving his dreams. Like the time when his car broke down and he walked into the dean's office to say that he wasn't sure if he could afford to finish school. As Harry remembered it, the dean looked him up and down and said, "Mr. Reid, why don't you just quit?" That dean did not know Harry Reid's character. Like others who would later underestimate the man, hardship had forged a steel in Harry. A fighting spirit that explained his success in the boxing ring despite being significantly undersized. He liked to talk about his boxing. "You know, Barack, wasn't a great athlete. Wasn't big and strong like some of the guys I went up against. I had two things going for me. Take a punch. I never gave up." It's about right. That same dogged determination marked Harry Reid's political career. He lost his first Senate race by just 600 votes. 6 months later, he ran for mayor of this town and lost in a landslide. But Harry did not give up. He got himself a seat in the House, then the Senate, finally became Senate Majority Leader, and let's face it, he enjoyed every minute of proving doubters wrong again and again and again. Sometimes the people who motivate us the most, Harry would later say, are the ones who believe in us the least. So yes, being tough, being a fighter, was one of Harry's singular characteristics. Apparently, once a staffer handed him some draft remarks in which he was supposed to refer to himself as a former boxer. And Harry crossed out the word former. He was 70 years old at the time. But there were other aspects to Harry's character that helped explain his extraordinary achievements. Qualities that, at this particular moment in our history, seem especially relevant. First and foremost, Harry was a pragmatist. At a time when so many Americans across the political spectrum apply strict purity tests to our politicians, demanding they toe the line on just about every issue, at a time when so often compromise is portrayed as weakness, Harry had a different view. He didn't believe in highfalutin theories or rigid ideologies. He thought most people make decisions based on their life experience, based on the immediate needs of their families, based on their own self-interest, no matter what they may tell themselves. And as a result, Harry met people where they were, not where he wanted them to be. And he was willing to cut deals, even with folks he didn't agree with or particularly like. I heard Nancy Pelosi say she never heard Harry say anything bad about any of his colleagues. I don't know about that, Nancy. But he would work with them. I love Nancy, but But he would work with them if that's what it took to move things forward. In a battle between perfection and progress, Harry always chose progress. And that pragmatism made Harry adaptable. When he first got to Washington, Harry's voting record wasn't so different from those who'd represented his state in the past, holding traditional positions on issues like gun rights, immigration, reproductive health. But as Nevada and the country changed, as Harry met more and more people from different walks of life and realized their struggles weren't that different from his family's had been in Searchlight, Harry's views on some of these issues changed as well. He didn't consider that a weakness. He understood that he wasn't always going to be right about everything. He knew how to listen and to learn. He was humble enough to admit when he had to change his mind and grow. And by the way, speaking from personal experience, it helps when you're married to somebody who's wiser and brighter than you. I know something about that. After Harry introduced a bill repealing birthright citizenship in the 1990s, for example, Landra pointed out that her own father had been a Russian immigrant. Later, Harry would say, "I came to the realization that I was way off base. I'm so glad she righted the ship." Now, of course, there are plenty of politicians who change their positions just because they want to get reelected. They've got their fingers out to the wind. They're interested in clinging to power for its own sake. But for Harry, the whole point of holding office, the whole point of wielding power, was to actually get things done on behalf of those he represented. During his time as leader, that is exactly what he did. He got things done. Without Harry, we would not have passed the Recovery Act, helping to prevent another Great Depression. Without Harry, we wouldn't have saved people's jobs, helped people stay in their homes. Without Harry, we would not have passed Wall Street reform, reining in some of the worst abuses of the financial industry. Without Harry, there would be no Affordable Care Act. People forget that there were many times during the debate over health care reform when it looked like nothing was going to get passed. But Harry, working with Nancy Pelosi in the House, working with then Vice President, now President, my partner in this fight, Joe Biden, Harry refused to give up, maneuvering and applying pressure like only he could. The deals Harry made to get that law done didn't always look pretty. They got votes. Whenever I would object to a change he wanted to make, whether because of some policy concerns or worries about the optics, Harry would tell me, with some exasperation in his voice, "Mr. President, you know a lot more than I do about health care policy, okay? I know the Senate." He was right. Harry did know the Senate better than just about anyone else. More importantly, he understood why the work we were doing mattered. Growing up, Harry's family didn't have health care. He told me he didn't even know what it was. Harry's brother broke his leg. He stayed in bed and waited for it to heal. His father needed a tooth removed. He yanked it out himself. Harry remembered those times. He knew what that was like. So when Harry put everything he had into passing the ACA, he didn't do it to burnish his own legacy. He did it for the people back home and families like his who needed someone looking out for them when nobody else was. Harry got things done. And here's another thing that set Harry apart. He was always unfailingly himself. That may not sound exceptional, but in Washington, it is an exceedingly rare quality. Harry was the first to admit he wasn't the most charismatic or politically correct speaker. After a press conference, he'd sometimes go up to a staffer and say, "Okay, tell me everything I did wrong." But Harry knew who he was. And he had the distinct advantage of not really caring what other people thought of him. In a town obsessed with appearances, Harry had a real vanity deficit. He didn't like phonies. He didn't like grandstanding. He was proud of the fact he didn't own a tuxedo. When he had to go to fundraisers, he would try to get out in under 10 minutes. And apparently the only White House congressional picnic Harry ever attended was for his son Key's benefit. Key wanted to impress a girl he was dating at the time. He and Miley ended up getting married, so Harry grudgingly admitted it was worth the sacrifice. Finally, for all of Harry's toughness, for all his hard-nosed views about politics, Harry loved his family, loved his staff, and Harry was a true and loyal friend. During my time in the Senate, he was more generous to me than I had any right to expect. He was one of the first people to encourage me to run for president, believing that despite my youth, despite my inexperience, despite the fact that I was African American, I could actually win, which at the time made one of us. You wanted Harry in the foxhole with you. His willingness to fight by my side, to stick with me even when things weren't going our way. My poll numbers had gone down, and some Democrats thought it might be prudent to maintain a healthy distance from me. His willingness to be there, fight, would last throughout my presidency. It's a debt to him that I could never fully repay. I remember toward the end of my time in the White House, Michelle and I invited Harry and Landra over for dinner along with Joe and Jill and Nancy and Paul, Chuck and Iris. And during the meal, Harry was his usual curmudgeonly self. Occasionally, he'd offer an opinion on this or that, mutter about the food was pretty good. But generally, he was keeping his own counsel. But at the end of the night, those who were there, I suspect, will remember this. I sure do. Harry suddenly asked for everyone's attention. "Listen," he said, "everybody here knows that I don't show a lot of emotion, okay? That's just how I grew up. I just want to say that I'm really proud of what I've done with this president, that I love this guy. And then, without any warning, he leaned over and kissed me on the cheek. I think it's fair to say that we were all surprised. And I laughed. I said, well, thanks, Harry. I love you too, man. And I put my arm around him, which I think was too much for him. Because he said, well, okay then. It's past my bedtime. And with that, he and Landra headed for the door. Pragmatism, adaptability, a premium on getting things done, lack of pretension, and abiding loyalty. That's what Harry Reid represented. A man of old school virtues. They are qualities that are in short supply these days. Yet, it seems to me they are precisely the qualities our democracy requires. Harry understood we don't have to see eye to eye on everything in order to live together and be decent toward each other. And that we can learn to bridge differences of background and race and region. He knew that our system of government isn't based on demanding that everybody think exactly the same way. In fact, it presumes that in a country as big and diverse as ours, people rarely will. But we can still work together. Harry may have been a proud Democratic partisan. He didn't shy away from bare-knuckle politics, but what is true is that I never heard Harry speak of politics as if it was some unbending battle between good and evil. Because he knew what was true for himself was true for everybody, that we're all a bundle of contradictions. We all have our flaws. We all have our blind spots. But despite all that, was possible for us to affirm our collective humanity, because that's what made America great. Once we had both left office, I didn't see much of Harry, but we'd call each other on the phone from time to time. He'd tell me about Landra. He'd speak with great pride about his kids and his grandkids and all that they were doing. Told me about his illness and the treatments he was going through and what was keeping him busy. And at some point during those calls, he'd usually mention somebody he'd run into who had thanked him for getting them health care or saved their job. And particularly in recent months, maybe knowing that he didn't have much time left, he'd allow himself a hint of nostalgia. Talk about how together we'd made a darn good team. We'd done pretty well for the American people. As I would start to reply, yes, he would cut me off. Okay then, Mr. President, he'd say, and hang up. The whole conversation would last about 5 minutes. But in those 5 minutes, he'd communicate more than some folks do in a couple hours. That's who Harry was. A man who knew what was important and didn't believe in dwelling on what wasn't. One former colleague explained it by saying to Harry, goodbye was an unnecessary word. Might not have been necessary for Harry, but it is for us. Goodbye, Harry. Thank you for everything. Nevada has never had a greater champion. The Senate and the country benefited from your extraordinary leadership. I could not have asked for a better, truer friend. I sure did love you back.
Well, Mr. President, Rock, I have to tell you, every time I hear a dial tone, I think of Harry. You all think I'm kidding. I'm not. Jill and I are here for Harry, but he wouldn't want us to really be here for just him. Everybody has referenced. Andra, we're here for you and for the family. Eulogies are for the living. You know, it's a true love story when you're still talking about your first date 60 years later, Gov. Harry never tired of telling the time you two kids had to push start his car, making your way down the road, wide smiles on your face. My recollection is he called it, when he told me the story, one of those, quote, moments that turn a life and that stay with you until the last breath. Landra, what a life you turned together until his last breath. Lana and Rory and Leaf, Josh, Key, all the grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Seeing and hearing you talk about him today, it's clear. My dad used to have an expression. He'd say, you were blood of his blood, bone of his bone. You are the product of Harry and Landra Reid. What a gift. What a gift God gave you. What a gift that was and is. Elder Ballard, President Obama, Vice President Harris, second gentleman, Governor Sisolak, thanks to the passport into the state, and Iris, and Chuck Schumer, and Paul and Nancy Pelosi, members of the Nevada congressional delegation, Senator Cortez Mastows and Rosen, and Representatives Horsford and Lee and Titus, the members of Congress, Democrat and Republican, past and present, distinguished guests. What a gift Harry Reid was to the state, to this nation, and to so many of us individually. I know he's smiling right now. Only Harry Reid at his send-off would sandwich the speaker between former President of the United States, Carole King, and the Killers. Thanks, Harry. You've always had a great sense of humor. He always had to win, and he always did. He got me again, but he always got me. The first time I met Harry, I got a call asking whether, as I'd just been elected at 29 years old in the United States Senate, I hadn't even turned 32 yet. I was a newly elected senator, and he asked me to campaigned for his election for Nevada's Senate seat being vacated by a man I'd only just begun to know, Alan Bible. The first thing when I met him in Nevada, we were talking about where he's from, and he said, well, I used to have to go out and shoot mad dogs. I thought, what in the hell am I doing here? I swear to God, I used to go out and shoot mad dogs. I'm thinking, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. What's going on? Harry lost that general election by less than 600 votes to Paul Laxalt. And he never let me forget thinking that I probably cost him those 600 votes. I'm only kidding about that piece, but I probably did. But when he asked me to come back and campaign for him when he ran for the House in 1982, he won that time. Then he won in 86. We go on to serve in Congress together for more than 30 years. We worked together with Barack during the 8 years we were in office. And even when Harry was done in the Senate, he was never really done, as all of you from Nevada know. He'd asked me to campaign for an awful lot of Nevada Democrats, many of whom are here today. I could never say no, although you probably said, oh, God, he invited Biden into my district? Well, I talked to him often during this past election, taking his advice, and Londra can tell you, of coming to his home on more than one occasion to visit and get his advice, and where I should be going in order to win. After he won, one of the things that Harry did, which was sort of incongruous with Harry, as you've heard today, he sent me a text. I've saved it. He said, I'm so proud, Joe, you're my brother. We won. Well, it made a big deal to me. It was a big deal to me that he felt that way. You know, Harry never wrote what he didn't believe. It made me feel good. He gave me a sense of confidence. Felt like he was my brother. Counted on him. I know so many of you felt that same way about Harry as well throughout his career and your relationship with him. Over 5 decades, we became genuine friends. The Irish Catholic kid from Scranton, Pennsylvania, and the Latter-day Saint from Searchlight. You think I'm kidding. But Harry is like the guys I grew up with back in Scranton and Claymont, Delaware. Harry would always have your back, like the guys I grew up with. Harry had mine, and he knew I had his. Although I sometimes wondered, when I was trying to make an important point to Harry about whether he really did have my back as he hung up. But to tell the truth, every time he would do it, I knew it was the real Harry. It was him. He had all he needed. He didn't want any more or need any more. And we did share some similarities. Barack said we have loving families, wives that are smarter and better looking than we were. And Harry and I both like to talk a lot. I'm just testing whether you're asleep yet. But whether you served with Harry for decades or you were new to America just a few days ago, you wanted Harry in your corner, and that's not hyperbole. His toughness was distinctly Nevadan. His story was unmistakably American. His remarkable journey has been told by so many, because it has been traveled by so few. Desert shack he called home, miles he hitchhiked to school, a boxing ring where he always got up, family tragedies endured, the cancer he and Londra fought, the halls of power he walked, the state he transformed, the country he shaped. He was proof that there's nothing ordinary about America. Ordinary Americans can do anything given half a chance. We, the people, pretty damn extraordinary. America's an idea. An idea that anybody given a shot can reach their potential. Harry was extraordinary, though. He and I grew up on different sides of the country. We came from the same place where certain values ran deep. First, loyalty, faith, resolve, service, your word. It's pounded into my head from the time I was a child. Joey, you're a man of your word. Without your word, you're not a man. And he met the marker, what I always believe is the most important thing which you can measure a person by, their actions and keeping their word. Harry said he was going to do something. He did it. He didn't do it the modern day rationale is. When I told you I would do that, I didn't realize that this would happen. No matter what happened. He gave you his word. He kept it. You could bank on it. That's how he got so much done for the good of the country for so many decades. That's how he literally saved, we forget it, Social Security during the Bush years. Stopped Yucca Mountain from becoming a nuclear waste site. Secured the votes for the Affordable Care Act. It's how he helped us rein in Wall Street, the excesses, and repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It's how he created Nevada's first national park and conserved Lake Tahoe. How he always championed Native Americans and tribal communities. So much more. None of it was easy. Not a lot of it was particularly popular when he was doing it. The thing about Harry, he never gave up. He never gave up. He never gave up on anybody he cared about. Like every great leader, he led the Democratic caucus just not by speaking, but by listening, by hearing all points of view, finding a common ground. Harry cared so much about his fellow Americans and so little about what anybody thought of him. It was all searchlight, no spotlight. I always appreciate private comfort, and so does Jill, who's with me tonight, that he offered me and Jill in difficult moments in our lives. We know we're not the only ones. Since his passing, we've all heard those wonderful tributes. The gracious way he would console the grieving, and encourage someone living with a disability. I still have that picture of our buddy Max Baucus. Max losing 3 of his limbs. Harry's standing in front of him in a wheelchair holding his cheeks. You know, Max knew. Max knew. Harry cared about him. The generous way he would empower a new colleague or insist that the new moms and dads on his staff would put their family first, even before their job, and do it always. The genuine friendships he made with the Capitol Police have been recognized 3 times because he was one of them. He wore the uniform. To a friend in need, Harry's voice was soft and gentle. In praise of himself, he was stone cold silent. Pursuit of fairness and prosperity, his voice would echo and will echo for generations in this state. Look, let there be no doubt. Harry Reid will be considered one of the greatest Senate Majority Leaders in history. I've served longer than all but about 12 United States Senators. Served there for over 36 years. I've had the honor of serving with a few of those names to be on that short list. For Harry, it wasn't about power, it was about the sake of power, about the power to be able to use power to do right by people. That's why you wanted Harry in your corner. That's what we should remember as a nation today. Harry knew better than most how difficult democracy is, that the idea of America itself is under attack from dark and deepening forces, that we're in a battle for the soul of America. Londa, I remember sitting in a room with Harry when he was supporting me for president. My explaining to him the reason I decided to run when I had decided I was never going to do that again was watching all those neo-Nazis come out of the fields down in Virginia, chanting anti-Semitic Bible, carrying Nazi flags. And he asked me what. I said, we have to restore the soul of America. No one knew it better than Harry. Protecting democracy requires vigilant stewardship. But Harry's life shows that for all our darkest days, we can find light and find hope. Just look at his life. It's just about every respect. Harry Reid came into this world with the odds against him. He believed life, and he lived it, and he left it, believing anything was possible. He's demonstrated that anything is possible. Look at this incredible family. Harry, in a small way, reminds me of my dad. My dad used to say, Joey, never explain and never complain. Remember one day we were having an event when I was running for my, I guess it was 5th term. We're at my house. I was feeling a little sorry for myself talking about a family loss of a daughter. My dad said, I'll be back in a minute. He left the house. We were waiting for people to show up. Went up to the local Hallmark store. He came back with a cartoon that was a little brass plaque with 2 sections to it. There were 2 clips from the cartoon character Hagar the Horrible. And in one, Hagar the Viking on a ship had been moving along near the rocks. Lightning comes out of the sky, chars the horns of his helmet, breaks the mast of his ship, and he's looking up at God. He's going, God, why me? In the next frame is a picture of Hagar and the ship and a voice coming down from heaven saying, why not? That was my dad. What makes you so special these things wouldn't happen to you? Why not? Stand up. Get up. Never bow, never bend, never yield. That was Harry. Never complained. That's what I admired so much about it. Above Harry's desk, as we all know, in the Senate office, was a giant portrait of Mark Twain. They both, Harry and Mark Twain, loved Nevada. They both knew how to say things we know to be true about ourselves and about our country. For Harry, it was this, as he said himself. He said, quote, I grew up around people of strong values, even if they rarely talked about them. Went on to say they loved their country, worshiped God, never shunned hard work, and never asked for special favors. That's Harry. It's America. Here's someone Mark Twain himself would have written about as a defining character in the American story had he known Harry. To his staff, known as Team Reid, he lost an incredibly genuine role model. But we see you carrying on HMR's legacy. People in Nevada, you lost a beloved son. But his spirit's always going to burn as bright as the desert sun. The nation, we lost a giant, America. Plain spoken, honorable, decent, brave. unyielding man. May this be his legacy. Call on each of us to be our best, to speak truth from the heart, to take up the remaining rounds of Harry Reid's good fight for the America we all love. What a gift. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. What a gift. What a life of a nation he turned until his last breath. Landra, God bless you. God bless the entire family. And God bless my friend Harry, great American. And God protect our troops.
Dear Heavenly Father, we are grateful to be gathered together today, from world leaders to family members, to celebrate the life of Poppy, of Harry. We are grateful for the beautiful words and music that have been shared today and for all the preparation and thought that went into this service. Most importantly, though, we are grateful for the years that we had Harry on this earth. We are grateful for his good works in the community, his grit, his tenacity. And we're especially grateful for the loyalty, the love, and the dedication that he showed his family and friends. We ask for a blessing of comfort and peace to be with his family, especially to Lana, to Rory, to Leaf, to Josh, and to Key, and especially to Grammy. That she can be lifted up and comforted by the love of those around her. And that she can keep Poppy's memory with her always. We pray that his memory can be a blessing to us, and that as we serve thee, we can remember his good example of service, and that the best of him can be carried on in the lives of his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchild, and all those that he touched. We say these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. President, and all. Much has been said about Senator Reid's telephone etiquette in this service. From my own experience, I have concluded, to paraphrase a line from a popular 1970s movie, that for Harry, love means never having to say goodbye. And because of the love of the Savior, Jesus Christ, neither do we. Instead, we say to Harry, God be with you till we meet again. Senator Reid's casket will be flown to Washington, where he will lie in state at the Capitol Rotunda, with an additional ceremony honoring his life to be held on January 12th. Senator Reid will make a final journey home to Searchlight, where he will be interred near other members of his family. As the Reid family now departs, we ask the congregation to stand and join Brandon Flowers, who will lead us in singing the Nevada State Song. Home means Nevada. The words appear on the program, and for those of you who are not from here, it's Nevada, not Nevada. Brandon Flowers sang this song often at Senator Reid's events, and as we all know, Harry Reid is first and foremost a devoted son of Nevada. Please remain standing until the family and special guests have departed. Due to COVID protocols, the family will not be able to receive guests after the service. And thank you all for being here today.
So I first met Senator Reid in 2009, and we were lucky enough to get to tour the Capitol. And it was just an inspiration for me because here was the Senate Majority Leader, and he came from basically the same dirt that I came from, and we shared the same faith. And it wasn't 5 minutes into the meeting when he waved for Chuck Schumer to come over, and he had me sing the Nevada State song in the office. And I think he was showing me off a little bit, but I also, as we've all heard today, I think he loved where he was from. And it makes it a lot easier for me to stand here and tell you how much I love Nevada. And so, as we said, we all have these. We're going to feel free to sing along with me. Way out in the land of the setting sun, where the wind blows wild and free, there's a lovely spot, just the only one, that means home, sweet home to me. If you follow the old Kit Carson trail till the desert meets the hills, oh, you certainly will agree with me, it's the place of 1,000 thrills. Home means Nevada, home means the hills, home means the sage and the pine. Out by the Truckee silvery rills, out where the sun always shines. Here is the land that I love the best, fairer than all I can see. Deep in the heart of the Golden West, home means Nevada to me. Whenever the sun at the close of day colors all the western sky, oh, my heart returns to the desert gray and the mountains towering high, where the moonbeams play in shadowed glen with the spotted fawn and doe. All the livelong night until morning light is the loveliest place I know. Home means Nevada, home means the hills, home means the sage and the pine. Out by the Truckee silvery rills, out where the sun always shines, there is the land that I love the best, fairer than all I can see. Deep in the heart of the Golden West, home means Nevada to me.
God be with you. God be with you.
an extraordinary story.
A computer salesman was supposed